My name is Clara Vance. I'm 32 years old, and I'm an archivist for the city's historical society. The cold linoleum bit into my cheek, smelling faintly of stale coffee and something metallic, like old pennies. My dad's hand was still tangled in my hair, pulling my scalp taut, and the pain was a white-hot line from my temples down my neck. He'd just punched me, a quick, sharp blow to the side of my head, then grabbed my ponytail and dragged me across the kitchen floor. My shoulder slammed against the base of the island, and I lay there, stunned, seeing the chipped white paint on the kick plate of the cabinets directly in front of my face. My breath hitched, not from crying, but from the sheer, shocking force of it. I didn't fight back. I couldn't. All I could do was stare at that chipped paint and realize, with a chilling clarity, that this was it. This was the moment I'd always known, deep down, was coming. This was the then there. The point of no return. The instant everything fractured beyond repair, and I finally understood what I had to do next. To understand how I ended up on that kitchen floor, you need to know about Arthur Vance, my father. He wasn't always like this. Or, maybe he was, but the edges were softer, blurred by the rose-tinted glasses of childhood and my mother's constant efforts to smooth things over. Dad was a successful small business owner, a general contractor. He built houses, and he built a reputation for being charming, persuasive, and utterly uncompromising. Growing up, I saw both sides. There were weekends spent at construction sites, him patiently explaining blueprints, making me feel like his little apprentice. And then there were the sudden rages, triggered by a misplaced tool, a delayed delivery, or a perceived slight. He never hit me or my mother, not physically, but his words could cut deeper than any fist. He'd shout, belittle, and then, just as quickly, swing back to being the loving, attentive father, leaving us all reeling and desperate for the calm. My mother, Eleanor, was the buffer. She'd soothe his anger, make excuses, and always encourage me to forgive him, to understand his stress. She believed, truly, that family was everything, and that meant keeping the peace at any cost. I learned to walk on eggshells, to anticipate his moods, to make myself small and agreeable. My job as an archivist, preserving documents and histories, was something he tolerated more than appreciated. He often called it dusty work or a hobby, not a career. He wanted me to be ambitious, to make real money, to live a life that reflected well on him. He'd often say, "A Vance doesn't just shuffle papers, Clara. A Vance builds." It was a constant pressure, a subtle undermining of my choices. There was a small ceramic bird on our mantelpiece, a robin, brightly painted. My grandmother had given it to my mom years ago. It was delicate, always seemed a little out of place in our heavy, sometimes suffocating home. It was the one thing in the living room that never seemed to get moved, a tiny, silent witness to every tense dinner, every hushed argument. The real trouble started when I got the job offer in Portland, Oregon. It was a dream opportunity, head archivist for a major university, a significant step up, and a chance to work with incredible historical collections. I called my parents, heart pounding with excitement, picturing their pride. "That's wonderful, honey," my mom exclaimed, genuinely thrilled. But then Dad got on the line. "Portland? That's across the country, Clara. What about your family here? Do you really think you're ready for that kind of responsibility? You're still so green." He didn't congratulate me. He didn't ask about the work. He immediately started listing all the reasons it was a bad idea, how I'd be alone, how I'd fail, how I needed family support. He even hinted at some vague business troubles he was having, suggesting my departure would somehow exacerbate them. He didn't explicitly forbid me from taking the job, but he made it clear I was making a terrible mistake, abandoning them. That detail mattered later. He kept bringing up his business troubles more and more frequently, sighing dramatically, looking at me with a pained expression. Finally, about a month before my scheduled move, he sat me down. "Clara," he said, his voice unusually soft, "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. I just need a temporary bridge loan. A few weeks, maybe a month, to get over this hump with the new development. I know you have your savings for that apartment down payment. I'll pay you back, with interest, of course. You're my daughter. I trust you. My mom sat beside him, nodding, her eyes pleading. It's just family helping family, honey, she whispered. I had saved nearly $25,000 for my first apartment. It was a huge chunk of my security. But the old conditioning kicked in. The desire to please, to avoid his anger, to be the good daughter who helped. I agreed, stipulating that I needed the money back by the end of the month, before my move. Being an archivist, I even drew up a simple, one-page loan agreement, outlining the amount, the interest, and the repayment date. He signed it with a flourish, calling me my meticulous girl. The month before my move was a nightmare. Every time I brought up the loan, Dad would deflect. The money's coming, Clara, don't you worry your pretty head. Just a few more days. Then it would be, you're so impatient. Do you think money grows on trees? As my moving date approached, his agitation grew. He refused to help me pack, then criticized my methods when I did it myself. You're folding those shirts all wrong. They'll wrinkle. He'd stalk through the house, muttering about how I was abandoning them, how he couldn't believe his own daughter would leave him in the lurch. My mother, meanwhile, was a nervous wreck, trying to keep us apart, whispering to me to just be patient, he's under a lot of stress. The day before I was supposed to leave for Portland, I tried one last time. I needed that money for my new apartment's security deposit and first month's rent. I couldn't move without it. I found him in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee. Dad, I started, trying to keep my voice even, I really need to know when I'm getting that money back. I leave tomorrow. He slammed his mug down. Money? All you care about is money, don't you? After everything I've done for you, you're going to nickel and dime me? You're just like your aunt, selfish and ungrateful. I told you, there's a delay. Are you trying to ruin me, Clara? Is that it? Just trying to leave me high and dry? His voice escalated, growing louder, more venomous. You think you're so smart, going off to your fancy job. You won't last a month out there. You'll be begging to come back, and then where will you be? He stood up, his face red, looming over me. You want your money? Fine. Here's your money. And that's when he hit me. A jarring blow to the side of my head that sent my vision blurring. Before I could even register the pain, his hand was in my hair, pulling, dragging me across the linoleum, past the kitchen table, until my shoulder hit the hard edge of the island. Lying there, the pain in my scalp intense, the taste of blood in my mouth from biting my tongue, I looked up. Past the chipped paint, past the cabinets, I could see into the living room. The small ceramic robin on the mantelpiece was still there, perfectly intact, but it looked different. It looked fragile, almost mocking. In that moment, the then there wasn't just about the physical violence. It was the absolute clarity that washed over me. This wasn't a temporary lapse. This wasn't stress. This was him. This was the culmination of years of emotional manipulation, control, and now, physical abuse. He wasn't going to change. My mother wasn't going to save me, or herself. I was completely alone in this, and if I didn't save myself, no one would. The ceramic bird, a symbol of fragile peace, suddenly felt like a lie. I didn't say a word. I slowly pushed myself up, my head throbbing, my scalp burning. Dad was still standing there, breathing heavily, his face a mask of fury and something else I couldn't quite place, perhaps a flicker of shock at his own actions. I walked past him, grabbed my packed duffel bag from the entryway, and opened the front door. My mother, drawn by the shouting, stood frozen in the living room doorway, her hand covering her mouth, eyes wide with terror. She didn't move, didn't speak. I looked at her, then back at the ceramic bird, then out the door. The silence in the house was deafening. I stepped out, closing the door softly behind me. I didn't have a plan beyond getting away. I drove to a motel a few towns over, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The first thing I did was call my friend, Sarah, a paralegal who knew a lot of lawyers. She listened patiently, her voice calm and steady, and gave me the name of a family law attorney, Ms. Evelyn Reed. The next morning, I met with Ms. Reed. I showed her the loan agreement, explained everything, including the assault. She advised me to file a police report, even if it was just for documentation. Domestic incidents can be tricky without witnesses, Clara, but having it on record is crucial. She also assured me the loan agreement was solid. I filed the police report. The officer was kind but realistic. Without visible marks or a witness, it would be difficult to press charges, but he documented my statement thoroughly. Then, Ms. Reid sent a formal demand letter to my father, outlining the loan repayment and the interest, giving him a firm deadline. She also included a clause about harassment, should he try to contact me excessively. I blocked his number and muted my mother's calls and texts, replying only with brief, non-committal messages. It was a difficult decision, cutting off my mother, but I knew she would be another conduit for his manipulation. Dad's reaction was exactly what I expected. First, a flurry of enraged voicemails and texts, accusing me of being a traitor, threatening to ruin me, saying I'd never see a cent. He tried to get my mother to intervene, to guilt-trip me. My mother, caught in the middle, sent desperate messages, "Clara, please, he's so upset. He didn't mean it. Just talk to him." But I held firm. I replied to my mother with a single text, "Mom, I love you, but I can't be around Dad's violence anymore. I need space to heal. I won't discuss this further." The pressure from Ms. Reed's office eventually worked. Dad, concerned about his business reputation and the very real threat of a lawsuit for the loan, finally conceded. It wasn't immediate, there was a lot of back and forth, but about 3 weeks after I'd moved to Portland and started my new job, the full amount of the loan, minus the interest, which I agreed to waive just to be done with it, appeared in my account. It was a victory, but a hollow one. The money was back, but the cost had been far greater. My new life in Portland was a stark contrast to the tension I'd left behind. My apartment was small but bright, filled with my own books and art. My job was everything I'd hoped for, challenging and fulfilling. I learned to build new boundaries, to say no, to prioritize my own peace. I didn't cut off my mother completely, but our conversations were carefully managed, always on neutral topics, and always ending when she veered towards my father. She eventually stopped trying to mediate, a quiet resignation settling over her. One Saturday, browsing a local artisan market, I saw a small ceramic bird, a robin, painted in soft, muted tones. It wasn't an exact replica of the one on my parents' mantelpiece, but it held a similar quiet beauty. I bought it. I brought it home and placed it on the small shelf above my own fireplace, a new mantelpiece in a new life. It wasn't a symbol of fragile peace anymore. It was a reminder of the day everything broke, and how I chose to pick up the pieces and build something new, something stronger. This bird, unlike the one in my childhood home, sits exactly where I want it, and it will never be moved by anyone but me.